Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today to go over Corporate Insight's latest credit card experience benchmark and survey data. During this presentation today about our 2025 credit card experience benchmark, we're going to talk about how the leading credit card issuers, website, and mobile apps do in our benchmark rating and learn what digital capabilities are most important to cardholders. We'll also take a look at the account information category, seeing not only the scores, but also best practice examples with detailed screenshots. We'll also explore the mobile app rewards category performance, taking a closer look at some of the available redemption options and features from leading firms. Finally, we'll touch on our survey data and findings, seeing what users find most important, what they do the most, what platform they prefer to log into, and finally, what they have to say about the credit card website experience itself. But before we get started with that, let me give you a brief introduction. My name is Megan Jacoby, and I'm a senior analyst on Corporate Insight's bank, cards, and lending team. In a more general manner than what I just mentioned, this webinar is going to cover what exactly the experience benchmark is, the methodology we use for that research, and a little preview of some of the report results and our survey findings. Since this is a condensed version of our actual benchmark reports, expect to see more broad findings today rather than specific coverage. You can also see that we have some time carved out for a Q&A section. Please feel free to post questions throughout the presentation in the chat available on your screen. We'll collect all of these and answer them at the end. And don't worry, we will be sending these slides out once the webinar is complete, so you'll be able to take a look back and review if you missed anything. First, I'd like to welcome our returning clients and say hello to those joining us for the first time. Here at Corporate Insight, we conduct different types of research to provide insights to our clients not only about their strengths and weaknesses, but also the overall competitive landscape and industry trends. We provide 5 core services to our clients: monitor services, experience benchmarks, custom research, UX research, and quantitative research. Our monitor services track and analyze industry trends and emerging best practices through different deliverables, such as monthly reports and quarterly matrices. The experience benchmarks, what we're going to be taking a look at today, serve as a comprehensive review of digital capabilities to identify firm-specific strengths and weaknesses, as well as overall industry performance. Our methodology is unique. We take on the perspective of your customer. What this means is that what the everyday consumer sees, that's what we evaluate. Our teams review digital experiences both pre and post login, which we refer to as the public site versus the authenticated site. So, we review both publicly available information, think things like introductory benefit offers or credit card comparison tools found on the public site, as well as some behind the login authenticated experiences, like redeeming rewards or making a payment. Across CI in total, we have access to over 700 live accounts from over 200 financial services and insurance firms. Our analysts, people just like me, review user journeys on these firms' websites and mobile apps over 750,000 times a year. So we really are constantly in these websites, evaluating different features and keeping track of any and all experience changes. So, now we're going to quickly cover the structure and methodology of the benchmark just to give some greater context before we look at the findings. Like I mentioned earlier, the credit card experience benchmark assesses primarily the authenticated site experience for consumer credit card account holders on both websites and mobile applications. We then take that data and create reports that help our clients understand both where they rank among competitors, and we outline the overall competitive landscape. These reports cover each firm within our coverage set and touch on their strengths and weaknesses. We also highlight the leaders in each category, and we outline key findings from the overall scope of the report. We also publish one report for websites and one for mobile apps, just so we make sure we're properly comparing the firms within those platforms. We do offer both off-the-shelf and custom versions of these benchmark reports. Today, I'll be going over findings from our 2025 syndicated version, which is available for purchase now. For this benchmark, when I refer to coverage set, I mean that we reviewed the websites and mobile apps of 14 leading credit card issuers. We do our best to include both national and regional banks in order to help identify leaders in certain areas. Our coverage set is reevaluated each year just to help account for any changes in the overall industry landscape and to incorporate any client feedback we receive. What you can see here is an outline of the topics covered in the experience benchmark. That top row of green boxes houses the 6 main categories that we evaluate across both platforms. That's account information, card servicing, rewards, profile and settings, support, and design and navigation. Plus, there's a 7th prospect experience category that is evaluated on the website only. The prospect experience category is the only true public site category that we look at in the benchmark. All the other categories look at the authenticated post-login experience. So now that we've seen the big picture, let me quickly explain how we assign grades. For each attribute, we develop a clear set of criteria. That way, we don't have a lot of ambiguity when grading, and we don't evaluate one firm more leniently or harshly than others. So continuing to look at that card servicing category, the card security subcategory includes attributes for things like card replacement, blocking and freezing a card, and disputes. The card replacement attribute includes criteria measuring whether each firm includes a lost or stolen card option, a damaged card option, if you can lock the card within the journey or not, can you review a list of recent transactions, and so on and so forth. So for that attribute, the number of features that each firm offers within the card replacement journey determines the grade. That said, we do not solely look at features and capabilities available within the whole experience benchmark. The design and navigation category looks at different criteria that's aimed to evaluate clarity and structure more so than features. Similarly, in every category, there is an ease of use subcategory, where we look at how easy it is to discover or use a selected journey. Those subcategories take on a very different structure just from the rest of the benchmark, just to make sure we can properly evaluate some of these trickier areas. So, the attributes, like the ones we just looked at, review the functionality, design, and usability of consumer credit card account holder experiences. Those evaluated attributes, again, based on a predetermined criteria, then correspond to grades of poor, fair, good, or excellent. The grades from each attribute are weighted. The weights are based on results from our large-scale survey that we conduct every year. By conducting a survey each year, we're able to make adjustments to those weights based on consumer preferences, just helping to ensure that we're placing the right emphasis in the right categories. Once weighted, those grades will roll into category scores, which will then ultimately combine into an overall platform score. The scores are loosely grouped into one of 4 tiers: leading, achieving, effective, and trailing for at-a-glance classification. Firms in the leading tier typically offer advanced capabilities, innovative features, and strong ease of use, while those that are trailing have some room for improvement, especially in terms of features, functionality, and design. So like I just mentioned, we weight the experience benchmark using a consumer survey for credit card account holders. The most recent edition of the survey received over 1,400 responses. We screened for respondents who were 18 years or older, had at least one credit card, and had logged into their credit card account within the past 6 months. Respondents were asked to rate both the importance of a wide variety of attributes and also note how frequently they've used those features within the last 6 months. So you can see here on the right that account information carries the highest weight. It was the most important category to respondents, followed by the card servicing category. Okay, on to the main event now, moving on to some of the actual findings. This next section will go into some key findings across both websites and mobile apps, highlighting where credit card firms are excelling and where there's some room for improvement. And we'll go into some of the overall scores alongside performance in specific categories. One of our more interesting findings during our benchmark work is that we saw that firms still offer more capabilities on their website compared to their mobile app. Looking at this graph, you can see that the coverage set scored lower on mobile apps for every category. These gaps are particularly visible in the support category, which had a 15-point difference in average score. And this gap still exists, even though we saw a decline in the website average and an increase in the mobile average for this category from our benchmark last year. Now, we have seen in previous research that users may not be using help resources all the time, but when they're looking for support and those experiences don't exist or are hard to find, it can lead to more contact with customer service reps, taking up valuable time for both the firm and the client. Also, while the rewards experience category shows similar average scores, after all, there's only a 1-point difference between the website and mobile averages, this category actually had the widest range of scores overall. And though these findings look at the industry as a whole, paying attention to these score ranges within categories can help offer places to improve the user experience. Rewards are one of the top reasons people use credit cards, and making sure that redemption options, redemption features, and resources are available can really enhance a user's experience when looking at their credit card account. Overall, we've seen repeated findings in our research that show that when functionality continuously lags behind on one platform, it can create confusion and frustration when users think they should be able to complete a task, but can't. Now here, we can see again, nearly every firm, except for Citizens Bank, performed better in our website benchmark than the mobile app version. Again, this largely makes sense given that we saw higher scores across website grading just due to more features and capabilities available. The chart here shows the difference between the website and mobile app scores for each firm in our coverage set. Firms towards the top of this chart, so PNC, Synchrony, and TD Bank, for example, vary a lot in these scores, suggesting that they offer very different experiences on their websites compared to their mobile apps. For example, PNC lacks important card servicing options, things like payment scheduling and management capabilities for card-only clients on their mobile app. Additionally, cardholders can't update basic personal information within the app. So there's a disconnect here for both personal and card-specific capabilities between the website and mobile app. Other firms towards the bottom of our chart, so firms like Chase, Citizens, and US Bank, have very strong cross-platform consistencies. In previous user testing, we've heard from customers that anything that they can do on the website, they want and expect to be able to do on the mobile app, and vice versa. So I just wanted to highlight this because gaps in functionality, again, between platforms can cause confusion for consumers who don't see these two platforms as distinctly separate. Looking at the industry at large, firms performed best overall in the account information category across both web and mobile. Bank of America, Citi, and Chase are the leaders when it comes to account information on the desktop, while on mobile, Chase is at the head of the pack. Firms scored best in the statements and documents subcategory, while scoring lowest in the financial planning subcategory. And while our consumer survey supported these scores with how important respondents believe these features are, younger consumers showed much more interest in financial planning tools than older consumers, suggesting that this could be an area we want to watch moving forward. We saw that some firms, despite not making a top placement, are already reflecting these views from younger consumers. For example, US Bank made a lot of updates to their money tracker tool, and American Express introduced a new spending analysis tool altogether called SpendSmart. These additions definitely help them in the subcategory, and it positions them well to attract or retain younger customers who, again, really do value these tools. Okay, moving out of these high-level key findings, let's take a look at what I'm sure you all have been waiting for, some of the scores. Now, while I can't show you how every firm scored, you can see the rankings table here with scores revealed for our top 5 firms. You can see that the pack is really quite close here, with Chase following in third with only a 1-point difference. There's overall less than a 10-point difference between the top 5 firms. Our competitive set average is 68, which makes sense as the majority of firms fall into that mid-range of scores. What we can infer from this is that most credit card firms really do offer effective digital experiences, but there is room for improvement. especially among those in the latter third of our scores. While we didn't have any firms fall into our trailing tier, we can see that there is not only a significant gap between top and bottom performing firms, but that small enhancements and improvements could potentially make a very big difference when it comes to scores and rankings. The chart here, right here, shows a combination of ease of use scores. Again, specifically evaluated authenticated site journeys and experiences within each of our main categories, like account information, card servicing, and rewards, and design and navigation scores plotted against all of our other scores combined. At a high level, this can give us a glance at the balance of user experience versus the actual functionality of the site. Citi, our overall top scoring website firm, had the best balance between the two, showing how the firm matches user expectations with its given functionality. American Express, on the other hand, offers a standout user experience, but misses out on some key functions. Relatedly, the cluster of US Bank, Bank of America, and Chase show how firms can provide roughly similar functionality throughout their sites, but lack some balance when it comes to the user experience. Looking at mobile performance, we can definitely see some shifts in the competitive landscape. This is absolutely a different spread than our website view. Chase takes the top spot here with a score of 77, followed by Citi at 76 and US Bank at 75. It's a very tight race between these three firms. We can also see that the industry average here is only 61. That's a 7-point difference from the website benchmark average. Notably, we didn't see any firms cross that 80-point threshold in the mobile benchmark, which I think really highlights some potential challenges credit card firms face in delivering exceptional mobile experiences. We also see here how some firms are not delivering even standard mobile experiences, with 4 firms falling under a 50-point threshold compared to website scores. I only had 1 firm fall under that line. The scoring distribution suggests that while credit card firms have mastered basic mobile functionality, there's still a lot of potential to create truly differentiated mobile experiences where firms can stand out from the pack. Let's look at that user experience versus functionality plot. Again, we can see some differences here. No firms seem to hit that sweet spot of balanced, high-level user experience and functionality, and some even perform opposite of their website counterparts. Citi here hits that high mark again with user experience, but we can see how the firm lacks that same amount of functionality as it does with the desktop site. Another cluster of scores, this time around American Express, Bank of America, and US Bank, show high user experience scores with varying rates of functionality. Chase here provides the highest functionality but falls behind these other firms with its user experience. Overall, we can see that the user experience for mobile apps scores higher overall, but there are some wildly disparate scores when it comes to the available capabilities in the apps themselves. Let's take a closer look at one of the categories themselves. The account information category consists of 5 key subcategories: account details, account activity, statements and documents, financial planning, and ease of use. We had 83% of respondents within our survey tell us that dashboard account balance details were very or extremely important to them. I actually think that a very telling set of statistics revolves around statements. We saw that 75% of respondents said that viewing or downloading a statement was, again, very or extremely important as an experience to them. We then saw that followed up by 74% actually performing that task in the last 6 months. I think this really lends some credence to our findings. It just shows that users don't care about these capabilities in a vacuum, but they really value them and use them within credit card sites. Here's a heat map that includes the rankings for each firm in each subcategory for account information. We wanted to include this chart for just this category so we could better illustrate how the scores and rankings can be analyzed. The subcategories on the left are listed in descending order of importance. You'll also see some ties throughout wherever firms receive the same scores. It can be really interesting to compare a firm's ranking here with their scores, which I'll show you on the next slide. For example, American Express ranks lower in the statements and documents subcategory compared to the financial planning category. You can see it outlined in that little orange box. But its scores, however, are higher in statements and documents compared to financial planning. This tracks with what we see in the industry across the coverage set. It's just harder to get a higher rank in statements and documents because more firms perform well in that area. So now that we've looked at the account information category overall, we're going to look at some examples of firm performance for two subcategories, account details and financial planning. Citi is one of the top firms in the account details subcategory, placing just behind Bank of America and PNC, who tie for first. Citi really excels with its prominent summary section. The tile highlights the user's current balance, it includes a unique progress meter visual, and it really helps users understand where their account status is at a glance. The nearby payment and reward tiles allow users to quickly scan for relevant information and then take action if needed, thanks to the prominent and well-designed CTA buttons. That being said, this interface could be considered a little busy. So, adding in some customization options or allowing users to reorganize their tiles to their preference, for instance, moving, say, the offers tile above the FICO score tile, could help users feel more in control over their account. Our financial planning subcategory looks at more than just spending analysis tools. We also look at credit score interfaces and their available features. Capital One provides an exemplary credit score interface. It's the only firm to refresh scores daily. It offers users detailed, tailored recommendations, which is an easy personalization win, and it provides additional security and monitoring tools. The interface is easy to navigate and well designed. Really, the only thing it lacks is a goal tool. But I want to use this as a great example of how overall scoring works. This is an awesome interface, but for those of you who might have been keeping score at home, you may remember seeing earlier that Capital One only scored a 62 and came in 8th place in the financial planning subcategory. This is mainly because Capital One doesn't offer a spending and budgeting interface for credit card holders. I think this firm really shows how having an outstanding interface in one part of one subcategory doesn't mean that you're necessarily the best performer overall. I hope it also helps demonstrate how rigorous we are when it comes to the criteria and attributes assessed for our benchmark grading. The previous two subcategories we looked at were based on our website data. Now we're going to take a look at a mobile category and its subcategories. Turning to the rewards experience category on mobile platforms, we evaluate credit card firms on their range of redemption options, redemption features, information and resources available, merchant offers. While only receiving a 12.5% rate, we found that survey respondents still greatly value the ability to see their rewards balance. 72% gave it, again, that very or extremely important rating, and 66% said the same thing when it came to redeeming rewards for cash back. I'm going to go through two different examples from the redemption options subcategory to give you a better look at some of the varying findings from different credit card firms. Discover offers a unique experience within the redemption options subcategory thanks to its statement credit redemption feature. This option allows users to set up either a one-time redemption or set an automatic monthly schedule. Within the automatic journey, Discover allows clients extra customization by giving them the option to enter a set amount rather than the full amount of a cashback bonus. And since this isn't a common feature, they really do well by offering a lot of guidance and clear information throughout the journey. There are lengthy tooltips, automatic calculations, and other guidance to ensure that cardholders don't feel lost. While this is a great experience, Discover lacks some other common redemption options, especially the recent purchase coverage that we've seen more and more firms adopt over the past few years, and the good old standby paper check option. Additionally, while this is a great feature because clients really value their cashback options, the firm lacks travel booking altogether, which is another popular redemption option. And speaking of travel booking, I want to take a quick look at what Wells Fargo offers here. Wells Fargo is the top performing firm in the mobile rewards category. It's the only firm to cross that 80 point threshold with a score of 83. and City comes in at a fairly distant second with a score of 75. While it's not the only factor, their available redemption options and interface really help drive that score. Wells Fargo makes it really easy for users to stay in the general reward experience, as they can switch between different options without having to navigate back to a main interface. More time in the rewards redemption area might lead to them following through on those redemptions. The search options allow for clients to refine available travel options, and the firm overall just asks more questions up front about potential travel bookings, again, providing that personalization aspect that clients like to see. Also, the firm ensures that its VA Fargo is readily available throughout the rewards site, helping to answer user questions alongside various tooltips and contextual information. Within our experience benchmark report themselves, you can expect to see even more examples of standout firms for specific categories and subcategories with the same detailed screenshots and analysis. The report will also give more context to overall performances by offering additional competitor highlights among firms. So now that we've touched on the experience benchmark, I'm going to go over just a few of the results that we found from our consumer survey. As I mentioned previously, we use the results of this survey to weight the scores of our benchmark and contextualize our results in our reports. The information you see here is really just a little bit of a refresher from earlier. I just know we've covered a lot of ground so far, and I want to hope to avoid as much confusion as possible. So again, with our 2024 survey, we received over 1,400 usable responses. The second bullet on this slide shows that inclusion criteria for our survey that I mentioned earlier. During the survey, we asked respondents to rate the importance of digital features on a 1 to 5 point scale, where 1 was not at all important and 5 was extremely important. You may hear me reference top 2 box importance ratings over the next couple of slides, which means that the combined total of people that answered that the feature is very or extremely important, a 4 or 5 on our 5-point scale. Based on those responses, we then weighted our experience benchmark scores. Just as a note, we also asked other types of questions, such as how satisfied users are with their credit card firm or their login frequency, in order to gain more information about how people feel about their accounts and how they engage with different features. Here's a brief overview of demographics for our respondents. You can see we have breakdowns for age, gender identity, and annual household income. We did combine the baby boomer and silent generation just because there were so few silent gen respondents, so just to note that references to boomers will include anyone born before 1961. Millennials and Gen Z were also grouped together for sample size purposes. We also grouped income into 3 buckets: under 40,000, between 40,000 and 80,000, and over 80,000, just to make it easier to talk about in this presentation and our benchmark reports. Here you can see the top 12 most important credit card website features according to our survey. You'll notice that many of these help support some of the earlier points we discussed. Account information and security measures are highly important, statements are still an important part of the digital experience, and that customers look for support when in need of help. These results also fall in line with other user testing and surveys that we've done. This slide shows the actual usage of those features from our survey results. There are a lot of similar trends here. We can see that those account information features that receive high importance are also often used. Cardholders aren't just saying they want to see balance information, they're actively going to look for it. An interesting part of this data also shows us that some tasks just aren't completed as often. Users are more likely to make a payment only once a month, whereas they might be checking their credit score or transaction history weekly or even daily. Finally, this chart doesn't show all the features that credit card holders use. Because of the nature of survey work, we can't properly assess some security features due to the timeliness of their actions, so those items aren't counted here. We continue to see growth when it comes to mobile app users, with nearly 50% of boomer respondents preferring the mobile app over the website, and 54 and 56% of Gen X and Millennial and Gen Z users, respectively, saying the same. It's more important than ever to continue to ensure that mobile app experiences are well designed and are as functional as website experiences. We saw that mobile app users are interacting with their accounts more. They're more likely to log in every day or multiple times a week. So investments in this platform could really pay off in the future. And those investments should probably include some support, just to make sure that newer users can quickly become comfortable and easily navigate, whether that's through help resources, intuitive navigation design, or other messages. Within our survey, we received around 250 open ended responses from credit card users, letting us know directly what changes they would like to see within their credit card website. Now, while some of those responses were definitely asking about things we couldn't control, around 100 of those responses focused on the design and navigation of the site, with many asking for easier ways to complete functions, like temporarily locking an account, finding past statements. Others were looking for updated designs that included larger fonts, less white space, and more intuitive interfaces and layouts. You can see some of the direct quotes here on this slide. Aside from these design and navigation changes, we also heard from cardholders about the desire for smooth, well running interfaces, firms offering more credit card reward options and benefits, supportive and responsive help resources, and increased security and fraud support. In an effort to sort of summarize what we covered here today, here are the hits. Leaders in this industry excel in key digital experiences like account information, card security, and rewards. Top performers are generally the same for website and mobile benchmarks, again, emphasizing the importance of cross platform experiences. User experience and functionality should be balanced to best provide cardholders with a standout experience. And we saw from our survey that users value features that give them awareness and control over their accounts, and that they tend to use those features the most. We also saw that mobile app usage is around 50% for all generations, and that those users are logging in more frequently. We also heard from a few users about what they'd like to see changed within the credit card website experience. Okay, I'll go ahead and get moving into the question and answer portion of our webinar. So I'll be going through some of those questions that you've posed throughout the presentation. I see here we've got scores from surveys or expert reviewers. So the scores you saw earlier in our presentation did come from our experience benchmark itself. So they're not from survey, but they're from our reviews through those grading criteria that I talked about earlier. So the scores come depending on the grades that firms receive based on how many attributes they have for a certain function or design experience. Can you say more about how you determine the user experience scores versus the functionality scores? What is the difference between the two in this benchmark? It's a great question. So these user experience scores are pulled together from our ease of use scores, which in every category, there's one ease of use journey. So each ease of use journey has its own score, combined with our design and navigation category scores. We wanted to pull together this sort of new way to look at the scores so we could better pull out functionality from firms versus the actual design experience from firms. While this isn't always something that is broken out line by line in our benchmark, we do think it's really helpful for some overall scores where firms can compare the functions versus what users are seeing through those functions. If you have a ton of options of things to do, but they're not intuitive to get to, that might not be as easy for users as having a few amount of things, but making it really easy to get there. Are banks naturally going to have greater functionality because of bigger product offerings? Good question. Our coverage set tries to look at both large national level firms and some smaller regional firms. So while we might see that smaller, more regional firms don't have necessarily the same amount of capabilities, we're not necessarily looking at community banks or credit union firms. So we're hoping that by providing a sort of general criteria, firms, regardless of their scale, are able to sort of accurately represent themselves here. While certain firms may have more resources, create more capabilities. Again, they may not have those capabilities in a very user friendly experience that other regional banks or so may be able to compete with there. Do you believe card issuers will close the functionality gap between web and mobile anytime soon? Thinking about the challenge that a mobile phone screen poses. This is a really great question. I can say from my experience working here that in the past couple of years, we've really seen a huge boost when it comes to mobile app capabilities. Firms are really pushing the envelope here. And I think scores are increasing year over year. I'm pretty sure our mobile app average increased this year from our benchmark last year. So there is being made here, and score averages are going up. Just from a user standpoint, I also think, despite that, despite there may be some challenges with a mobile phone screen, but I also think having a smaller interface to work with can sometimes be a boon. It lets you really get the information to credit card holders really easily. And if you can cut down on navigation, you can honestly give them a better experience. They may have to click 2 or 3 times on a website to get somewhere. Smartly designed mobile app interfaces can get clients where they need to go probably much faster. Do we cut data by consumer versus business, or do see distinct differences between those groups? We actually do have a small business banking monitor here at CI. It's part of our bank cards and lending team. This report itself and the experience benchmark focus on consumer credit cards only, but we do sometimes see differences between our consumer card holders and our small business card holders. For example, we see a lot more discussion around authorized user functions and capabilities on our business banking side, where that's not normally quite as large of a top of mind feature for our consumer card holders. So I would say that's definitely a distinct difference we see there. Um, but yeah, this report and the benchmark itself does focus on consumer cards only. You mentioned how support for mobile apps could be important. What kind of support features do you think are especially helpful? This is a great question. I think there's a ton of different ways to answer this question. Obviously, we've seen a huge rise with, virtual assistants and chat functions. Definitely, almost everybody likes to talk about Erica. I think Fargo is really well positioned as well. I do think some of these chat bots are really helpful for consumers, especially because they may have a specific question in mind. Being able to type that in somewhere and either get navigated to an answer or receive an answer directly can really cut down on the time they're spent wondering what the question is. I personally always like a tooltip. I think anything that keeps a user on the same page that they're on is really helpful. The less navigation they have to go away or back to find help, I think the happier they're going to be with feeling resolved in that journey overall. Is there a similar experience benchmark report for deposit accounts? Yes, actually. So while we went over the credit card experience benchmark today, we do have a consumer bank experience benchmark available as well. And that goes over, I believe, 20 or so of the leading deposit, bank institutions. There's definitely some crossover here between some of our coverage sets, but they cover a super wide variety of different deposit accounts, and they go through the same sort of rigorous grading that the credit cards firms do as well. Do we assess the difference in experience between co-brand and proprietary programs? That's a good question. Within our monitor service, like I mentioned earlier, we do sort of deliverables on all sorts of card things. Our credit card monitor just recently did a co-branded cards report, and we also did a card benefits report. So that could be something of interest in looking at sort of what co-branded cards offer versus benefits offered by card issuers like Visa, MasterCard versus credit card benefits, reward benefits from the firms themselves. Do I have any insights on how different brands are using search engine optimization and which strategies are proving most successful? I don't have that information top of mind, but I do believe our UX team would probably have more information on that directly. They're definitely able to go in and have a little bit of a closer look at some of different strategies and different search engine ways are done by firms, but that sort of level of keyword work is not necessarily something we cover here. Again, we really focus on the consumer user experience rather than the overall firm presented experience. Somebody asked, can you say more about off the shelf versus custom options for the benchmark? Absolutely. So, we offer again two different versions of this of the full version of this report. Again, this webinar today really barely scraped into the details. So we offer basically a syndicated version that's going to show you the scores for categories. It's going to show you top competitor insights. It's going to go into deeper key findings, and it's also going to go into just some overall competitive intelligence that we can provide. Custom options of this benchmark will be tailored to the firm itself that purchases. So we'll be looking at specifically how a firm does compared to the rankings. So we can do a deep dive into placement in all categories, top competitors, where firms are standing out, where there's room for improvement, and give a much more sort of tailored answer to um, how you did in the competition this year. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for attending. And I want to reiterate that we will be sending these slides out to you all just a little bit later. But please do feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. The 2025 credit card experience benchmark is out and available now for anybody interested in learning more or purchasing. Thank you again, everybody, for attending. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I had a great time getting to share this with everyone today, and have a great rest of your day.